I'll repeat it. I'll wait for Rick to get in. Deuteronomy 8. We're going to pick chapter 8. Yeah, chapter 8 and verse 19. Yeah, we made it to 19. I want to look at, we'll pick up in, uh, 11. Deuteronomy 8, verse 11. I'll wait for Rick. Lord's good. It's good to hear from Carol this morning. And how the Lord's blessed them and is taking care of them. Yeah. Definitely. She's definitely praising the Lord for that. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 11. We're talking about when you get in the land, it says, beware that you don't forget, or do not forget, the Lord your God by not keeping His commandments, His judgment, and His statutes, which I commanded you today. Lest when you have eaten and are full, and have built beautiful houses and dwell in them, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold are multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, when your heart is lifted up, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness, in which were fiery serpents and scorpions and a thirsty land, where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, that He might humble you, and that He might test you, to do good to you in the end. That's the last verse we read. I love that. He's reminding them, don't forget, you're going to go in and you're going to be blessed. And what God's plan for these people was to bless them. So you're going to be wonderful homes. You're going to be full to the brim. You're going to have food. You're going to have children. And you're just going to explode. This is what I want you. This is how I want to bless you. This is what I want to do for you. Frankly, I believe that's His heart for all man.
But He's saying, don't forget that I helped you do this.
Exactly. He's reminding them. He's saying when you get in there, the whole key, when you get in there, don't
leave me out of
it. Yeah, don't say, look at how smart we are. And if you look at America, when we talk about how America has been established and we praise who? The forefathers, not God. What do most people in politics?
Not just America, most of the world.
Almost the whole world. But we have a lot of adoration and praise for our country, but we should be praising the Lord for that, and politicians especially should be out front to say, look, God got us here, and He can get us back, or He can help us, and because I think a lot of people in politics are proud to be in America, or some of them aren't, but a lot of them are.
I think most of them are.
Yeah.
I think they want to keep their position.
They want to keep the position. So if you start talking about God, you're in trouble. But man, it's backwards. Your nation won't last very long if your politicians can't even utter Christ. It just won't function.
I think is really lacking, because I'm judging, and
Yeah.
I know I ain't supposed to be, but I think the Pope could do a whole lot more than what he's done.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I don't, but a lot of people do. They look toward him like he's almost like God's right hand almost.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when things go wrong, like same-sex marriage and
right,
and homosexualism and abortions and things like it, it seems like he don't make a very strong.
Yeah.
If he come out and get up there on that little thing out there and come out just 100% totally against all that stuff right there,
It would help.
there would be a great big
it would help.
turnaround.
Yeah.
People listen to what he
Right.
says, but when you're vague about it, because you're afraid you're going to step on somebody's toes,
Yeah.
like a lot of politicians do and everything, like you talk
Sure.
about. They don't want to say anything because they're afraid that, this is my job here and everything.
Right. You need to stand with God. The Pope, to be fair, does a good job against abortion. He would say it's wrong, it's murder even. But yeah, he
controls the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah. If you're going to be in a position of leadership, you have to have a spine. You have to have a backbone. You can't You can't bow to what you. And if you're following the Lord, man,
It's
that's
either right or
great.
wrong, ain't it?
It's right or wrong, and you need to stay with God. Just stay with God, and if it gets you stoned, it gets you stoned.
And
If
you know, a
if
lot
it
of
gets you
people that are
praised, it
Catholic,
gets you praised. It's just
a lot of
stick to
Catholics,
it.
like I think Nancy Pelosi,
Mm-hmm.
I think she's a Catholic.
Well,
And,
you know, she
and
claims
even,
to be. Yeah,
I know Joe Biden, I know
he
he's
claims to be.
Catholic, but they claim to be this one way, and it's like,
Yeah.
if somebody tells you that this is wrong, then you should make, like you said, like you do on the bus.
Yeah.
You know, you talk to your kids on the bus and everything, you know,
Yeah.
any day now, you could be out of job. You
Yeah.
could be,
Sure.
but you taking a stand, you know.
Right.
That,
Right.
You know, but, you know, a
Right.
lot of people don't do that.
No, and even Trump.
Even us. I'm
Yeah.
not talking to, but even
You
myself.
talk. I saw an interview with Trump. They said, "Well, why don't you?" They asked Trump because he's against abortion. They asked him, and they said, "Why don't you make a law where no abortion whatsoever, no abortion?" He said, "Well, I couldn't." He said, "I wouldn't mind doing that, but I wouldn't win."
No.
That's what he said. So even him, it's like, well, I'll give, but man, don't give, don't give, don't give. You know, don't compromise, don't do it. You're not gonna, you may not win, but it doesn't matter about your standing on earth if you're against God, right? If you're against God, at the end of the day, it's over, and
Because you got this little short window.
you got this time here to.
It's just like the Roe versus Wade thing.
Yeah, exactly
We was
right.
talking today with the Sonia, talking how short of a time, or maybe Sister Carol, how short a time we have here.
Yeah,
That we ain't gonna be living here. This ain't it.
yeah,
And people look at it like, I
right,
got all this time on there and everything. You know, I'm 71 years old.
right.
And I know my
It's like
time is
that.
coming
Right.
pretty quick, because 10 years it done went by just like that. Next
Right.
year, pretty soon I'm gonna be 81 pretty quick.
Yeah,
And I look at that, he's 94, and really, he's having a hard time just being 94 years old. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, do you want to be 94 and live here in this
Yeah.
kind of world?
right.
He wants to be out of here.
So
Like Brother Jim, he's not leaving
until God says,
he wants him to go.
right, amen. So here he's telling them there's two aspects of here. Look, when I bless you, praise me for it. Praise me for it and stick with me. Don't run to sin because that's a lot of times when a lot of people, when they're being crushed, they go to God. They cut everything else out and they go to God and they hang on to Him. But when they're up on top, that's when their eye starts kind of wandering and
They lay into their own understanding.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I don't mean to step on.
No, you're good.
The Pope I'm talking about, you know, because it ain't just the Pope. There's a lot of preachers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's
yeah.
He's kind of the main guy.
But no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I'm not a Catholic, but
Yeah.
when he talks and comes out and he listens, I kind of listen to what he's kind of saying.
Well, yeah,
because
he loves the Lord.
He's supposed to be a real godly person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of preachers that we have nowadays that.
Yeah, you gotta.
To get that money to keep rolling in.
Right, you can't do certain things. Yeah.
Oh, okay, come on in there and serve and be whatever you want to be and everything.
Yes.
Just go ahead and do it, because
Right.
we think the things the Lord has changed this Bible now.
Yeah.
And things are going to be different now.
Right.
If he was here today, which he is,
Mhm.
but they think that if he was here, he'd probably go ahead and rewrite this and everything.
Oh,
change it,
no.
and it's okay.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. And stand with God. If you're the only person standing with God, stand with God. If you're the only one, it doesn't matter, because it's just not easy. But you just got to make up in your mind, I'm staying with Him, and I'm not going to turn.
You know, it's like, I know I'm talking too much, it seems like, but it's like when we was kids and we all got in a bunch.
Yeah.
We all gonna smoke.
Yeah.
You know. I tried it.
Yeah.
I took death on it. First one I put my mouth in again, and I thought, this is stupid.
Yeah.
I would have a candy bar.
Right.
Well, the other kids kept on trying it and kept on going. They got used to it.
Yeah.
A lot of them now ain't here. A
Yeah.
lot of them's having cancer and everything else going on because they made that decision to go and
To
not
push
that I
through.
I can't get it, but
Right.
because Della smoked for a long time and I was around it.
Yeah.
So I could have been breathing it, but it's like, it's you make choices.
Right.
You know.
Right. And
30 years.
yeah.
That's about 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say after about 5 years, smoke start clearing up your lungs.
Yeah. Well, let's keep moving.
My lungs clearing now.
It says then in 17, it says, then you say in your heart, so it's talking about after you've been blessed, My power and my might of my hand has gained me this wealth. And you shall remember the Lord your God. For it is He who gives you power to get wealth, and that He may establish His covenant, which He swore to your fathers, as it is in this day. Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God, and follow other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you. That's when God says that, right? It's not good. That this day that you shall surely perish, as the nations which the Lord destroyed before you, so you shall perish, because you would not be obedient to the voice of the Lord your God. So it's like, don't forget how you got here. Don't forget how you got here and think, oh, I got smart, and we can do this with ourselves. We all have peace in our home. We all have peace in our heart. We all have certain things that other people want, and we can see with our eyes they don't have, right, this peace and this joy. They're clinging.
They can see it in us.
And they can see it in us, but what we have to be careful to do is to not think, well, those stupid people, why don't they just do what I do, right? And look how I got smart and I did it. We say, no, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I'd be right where you are. If it wasn't for the grace of God and His mercy upon me to open my heart to Him and to come to Him, I would be right there where I was. Exactly, right where I was. And that's the absolute truth. And so we can't forget and say, okay, well, and we can't let our guard down. And so keep going here. It says, hear, O Israel, you are to cross over the Jordan today and go in to dispossess nations greater and mightier than yourself, cities great and fortified up to heaven, right? Which is an analogy. Huge cities that no one can take over. A people great and tall, the descendants of the Anakim, who you know and whom you heard it said, who can stand before the descendants of Anak, right? These are giants. Therefore, and believe it, man, the Bible talks about giants. It's a matter of fact. There was absolute giants, and also the Nephilim, some type of different. You read early in Genesis. I don't make a whole lot out of Nephilims because the Bible doesn't make a whole lot of them. There's just one or two references to these type of angels or type of heavenly beings that were corrupted, that fell with Satan, and then procreated with the women.
They're called Hebrews.
All kinds of different names.
The offspring was giants. It was called Hebrews.
Yeah.
They were so big.
Yeah, but you may hear, like, some people go on theories and theories of all this stuff. It's pretty simple. The Bible just makes it clear. They were there. They were giants. Doesn't give us a whole lot on it. But anyway, there was giants in this land, and it was a fortified city that if you were to look at it, and you got to think, Israel, what was Israel? They were just brought out. They were a bunch of slaves. They're just barely a nation now, right? They've been given a law. They have like laws now, but they don't have an army. They don't have, I mean, they got men, but they don't have like a general and all that. They're just a bunch of slaves that come out of Egypt, and they're following this God. And you could see why when they got there the first time, they thought, there's no way. How are we going to do this? We don't got the equipment they got. We don't have, people have always been smart. A lot of people think of these early people in this as dumb people. All they have is rocks and sticks and, no. They have the same brain in between our ears. Like when they were going into Canaan, they had weapons. And they had things that maybe they didn't have guns, but they had, maybe catapults or type of stuff that we have no clue. So there's this fear of how are we going to do this? But he says, trust in me, trust in me.
Would the people that are over 7 foot now, would they be considered that?
Maybe. I don't think so, because Goliath was 9 foot tall, and they didn't mention anything of him. And we've never had a 9-footer. We might have people that get to 9 foot tall, but it's because they have growth defects and they're not able to move. They're not able to function.
Movie stars, 7 foot think 7'5".
Yeah, 7'5" is like right where we top out as a race of actually being able to be mobile. But Goliath not only was 9.5 foot tall, he packed a sword. I mean, he was mobile too. Like a lot of people that get that tall, they're not able to function. Their bones are breaking, and Goliath was a monster of a man, and he was built. You know, he was a warrior. So, you know, Shaq might be considered a giant. You know, Shaquille O'Neal maybe, but he's 7 foot tall. No, we've never seen a 9 foot tall man. You know, so
I
but.
wanted to ask you about what's going on now with Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like, I don't know if y'all think what I'm thinking, but it sounded like that the United States is trying to turn against them.
Well, they may, yeah.
I mean, have y'all seen that on the news? And Schumer and them now are wanting them to have a special election over there
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of
Oh,
Matthews. They want him out.
right.
So they're kind of turning against his right to defend his country
Yeah.
against Hamas. So I'm just wondering if there's someplace in the Bible here later on in here that it says that something about people who turned against Israel it was something that was pretty bad, wasn't it? That you just
Well,
you
anybody.
just don't do that. You just
Well, anybody that goes against Israel can be making mistakes, but also God will send nations against Israel to punish Israel at times. But then He'll send wicked nations against Israel to punish Israel, and then He'll punish the wicked nations. So, as far as America in your Bible, you won't ever see America in your Bible. You just won't.
well, I don't mean it's called America.
Yeah.
But it may be called something else that
Yeah.
because something they talk about nations
Mm-hmm.
going against Israel. It's like
Right.
you just ain't gonna do it. It just
Yeah.
ain't gonna happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, it never. If you look at the nations that have gone against Israel and punished them, those nations have also been punished, but not because they went against Israel, but because of their own wickedness. God will use other nations even to punish Israel, but He doesn't say, "I'm punishing you because you've punished Israel." Sometimes He does if Israel doesn't deserve it. But if people come in and punish Israel, He says, "I'll wipe them out," but not because of that, but because of their wickedness. Now, as far as what's going on over there, when I read the scriptures and I read prophecy and I read Revelations, I don't try to cram any idea that's going on out here into this. I want this to speak to me, and I want to take it from the context that it's in. There's other ministers and other teachers that will take and just say, well, this means this means that, this means that. And they just say, well, it can just kind of mean anything you want. And so I'm very cautious when I go about that. Now, because of that, there's things I don't understand. I'm not going to say I have it figured out or anything like that. But one thing you can't be for sure is that God is just. He's just. And also, from the New Testament, we learn that He's not only working with Israel anymore. We are all Israel. If you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you are on the same level. He's no longer just dealing with Israel as a special nation. We are all on this same level. Now, there's obviously specific places and things that He will return to, and you see those all come around Israel, like the Mount of Olives and Mount Horeb, and all these things that He will actually set foot on again. And so, how He deals with that's how He deals with it. But if I was a politician, I'd be very, very, very careful unless Israel's doing some kind of genocide, is taken over by, say, Muslims or something like that, and is doing genocide or something like that. You just need to be very careful about what you do. But I believe that if you're of the world, you're not going to want to help Israel because your eyes are blinded, and it's just if it tells us in the scriptures that if you're not following God, you're following the evil one. And it will just corrupt, and you won't know what you're doing, but you'll be doing things you're not supposed to be doing, and you'll be fighting against the light. So when I look at all this, I think we have a lot of corruption in our politics. There's no doubt about it. There's corruption. There's things that our politicians do that they don't ever tell us. Like if they're trying to fix an election over there to drive him out. That's completely illegal. You cannot do that. That's illegal. But over and over, our nation has done that. So we're not a just nation. And so all we can do is say, Father, here's how I look at it all. I'll just say, Father, your will be done. Because it would drive you nuts. You just say, what are you doing here? I don't know what to do.
Well, I do that, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of things in here that when you read it, that you have seen things that come to pass.
Oh, yeah.
That people, if they go by this Bible, that you look in the past at things that happened, it's true. It's come to pass.
Right.
So these other things that are going on now, and that with the Gaza and what was he made the capital was Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Trump did that, but it was 45 years or something after.
Yeah.
And he made it that, but the Bible says that it would happen like that. You know?
Well, yeah, in the 60s, yeah. Well, for a while Israel wasn't even a nation. They didn't recognize them as a nation, right? But they come back on the scene in the 60s. So, yeah, a lot of it depends on how you view Revelation, how you read Revelation. I believe in Revelation, a lot of it was written to the people who were living in the days like of James and John, and a lot of it has already been fulfilled, like the temple being destroyed and things like that. So
I think what I'm trying to say is, like, in here it says, when you see these things come to pass, there's a lot of things that's happening that shows you that these things, it's escalating, that the world is fixing to come.
Right.
God's coming back.
Right.
And it says, when you see these things come to pass,
Yeah.
look up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's fixing. So what I'm saying is that these things that you watch around you that's going on, earthquakes everywhere and floods and all this stuff, wars and going around everywhere. Well, that's something that you can't be blinded by. You cannot see it. It's there. It's happening.
Right, and it should point you.
When this says, when these things are happening, you need to look up.
Yeah.
So he's letting you see what's going on around this world.
Right.
And letting you know that you better get a little closer.
Right.
Than what you are right now, because things are fixing to come to a head.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
No, absolutely. And I think it's done that. It's been on the verge for 2,000 years. Because right after Christ's resurrection, Rome comes in and just destroys Israel. It's just catastrophe after catastrophe after catastrophe on the edge. And then look at our history, all the war from World War I, they thought it was the end. World War II, they said this has to be the end, all these wars and what Nazis were doing. And now it just continues to be war and rumor of war and sickness and plague and all this. So obviously the Bible's true. So it should drive you, like when you look around, it should drive you into, hey, there's got to be more. Because something's going on, and the Bible gives you an answer for it. The reason there's so much.
Say if it's just a layman person that really don't go to church, but they know they've heard God.
Yeah.
You know, and then somebody reads to them about something in here, and they think, well, that's already happened. I've heard that over here happened over here or something. So maybe there's something to this Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So many people have been saved that way, looking into that and looking into history and seeing, well, the scriptures teach of these type of things and this stuff will happen. Yeah, absolutely. You just got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Yeah. Oh, what time you got?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right.
We'll take another 10. I'll take up.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Lord's good. So he says, therefore understand today that the Lord your God is He who goes over before you as a consuming fire. He will destroy them and bring them down before you. So you shall drive them out and destroy them quickly, as the Lord has said to you. Do not think in your heart, after the Lord your God has cast them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness the Lord has brought me in to possess the land. But it is because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is driving them out before you. See how God is completely just? You know, some people will argue and say, well, that's not fair. How could God do that? How could God take these people and put them and steal these people, these wonderful people's land? They wasn't wonderful people. These were wicked people. And God, by His choice chose a group of also wicked people to come in and take the land. And He made a deal with those people. Yeah, I'm going to give you this land, and you keep my commandments. I won't drive you out as I'm driving them out. It's completely just.
You know what?
Completely just.
Why I'm saying this about this is like, and I'm gonna say this. You want to say something pretty quick, but this is a scary time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not for me,
Yeah.
not for you.
Right.
But it's a scary time for the people who are lost right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I look at this, what's going on, and I see this, what's going on, and it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid for them.
Right.
You know, and you hope that God will get a hold of them and turn them around and everything. You know, but
Right.
there again, you know, if they don't want none of it, you know, even though he's going to go after them, but they're turning them away and everything. So
right.
It's a scary time, not because I see it.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
What's going to happen to me and everything? No, it's what's going to happen to my relatives, people
Right.
that
Yeah.
that ain't living right, people that don't care about him. And
Right.
You know, it's a scary time because
Yeah.
they're not seeing it. Oh, they heard it on the news.
Yeah.
And they see what's going on all over the world, but they're not putting it together.
No. And I think God, like with COVID, God used COVID. A lot of people found the Lord because of COVID. Absolutely uses it. And God can by any means drive us to Him, right? Because that's what sets us free. I mean, each one of us who was driven to God, I would say, I know Bill, or I know Papa and Rick and me. I was driven to God by something that was falling apart. I was driven to God. You know, Papa was driven to God over Faye's death, which would say it was something falling apart, a catastrophe in a sense. Rick, it was during Della's cancer. For me, it was like my life was just kind of crumbling, and He used those means to drive me to Him, right?
I have been in injuries.
You had been in injuries. Bill, your testimony is, I think, maybe a little different. You come in and seen something you was missing. And Dad, you've seen a change in your dad and seen, hey, I'm going with him. Where he goes, I'm going. But He uses everything for His good, you know. And like you said, if they would open and just look and just see how life is fallible and life is fickle. It can be gone like this, and you can't trust the government to save you. You can't trust even your own family. You can't, I mean, you can trust their word, but they can't do nothing for you on your deathbed. You can't trust your health. There's people that are completely healthy that die. I was reading a story about a guy who he was running marathons and just passed over and died of a heart attack. This guy's running 36 miles like once a week. That's crazy, and it just died. You can't trust in any of that. And what God does is that funnels you to search here, search in your heart to ask the Lord to show you. And He sets all of us out here as His ministers. Or it says we're ambassadors for Christ.
Well, it says like my brother.
Yeah.
You know, he's a while back he said that he needs to before he had that second stroke. He said I need to get back in church.
Yeah.
Then he had that second stroke.
Yeah.
But he ain't really to himself now. I mean, he knows who we are and everything. Stuff.
Yeah.
He knows who he is.
Right.
But when he goes home and he gets better,
Right.
will he think, hey, that was pretty close. I better get back to church.
Yeah. And the Lord's good. I've heard stories of people who had known the Lord and had died, and they're going to hell. And they cry out, Lord, help me, help me. And He comes and gets them. You know, God is so good.
Many people don't believe that.
Yeah.
People think that you're laying there in the bed and you're dying.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're just ready to go, and all of a sudden you cry out, Lord, help
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You know, be
Oh,
with
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
think
Realize how blessed you are.
Mm-hmm.
How we should just shout from the rooftops.
Yeah.
We're actually you're one generation to the next of just completely leaving God out of everything.
Right.
Like on your bus.
Mm-hmm.
You was talking about that.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine somebody not even hearing?
Right.
I ain't never heard that before.
They didn't.
Talk about Noah's Ark, just a simple.
For instance, there's a kid on my bus who had to cut this part out, but we had to edit this out.